Awesome. So let's go into the next step over here, which is managing reference elements. This is more related to whenever you want to bring in elements to your site that you want to use them as references, but you don't want them to either be part of your presentation, or if you don't want them to be clickable or something like that. You want them to be there, and you want them to not be on your way. Let's put it like that. So there are two things that I want to touch base about. This is the new locking behaviors and the disconnection from the timeline. So this might be quite basic for a couple people on the call, but a lot of people don't know much about this. So I'm going to just talk about that. So the first one, locking behaviors, is for you to define, for example, I brought in a new satellite image for this site. So the satellite image is over here, and I brought that using my drawing overlay tool, where I place in that screenshot of Google Maps, or it can be from a drone, it can be from Google Earth, whatever place you can find an image that shows the aerial, like a flat image from your site, you can import them over here. Okay, so when I bring this image in and I place this on my site, I will project that on the terrain to make it follow the terrain. However, now this is an object that is on the background of my site. So every time that I click on that object, that object will be selected. So this can be in the way of a lot of people. So like you're working with your model and you're like, oh, I accidentally clicked on this. Now I have to hit escape to deselect that. Or you click on the sky over there to deselect that. So we just recently made a change in the software where you can right click and lock this element. And when you lock it, this object will now be hatched like this. And I talked about this a little bit on the previous workshop, but this will have a hatch. But the difference now from the previous workshop to this one is that this item now cannot be clicked if I click once. So I'm clicking once over here on this background image, and I'm not able to select it anymore. But if I still, let's say that I still want to select it, I can double click and it will show that. But as you can see, I cannot edit a locked object. So I can double click to select it and then right click to unlock, right? So then it will become editable again, and then I can do whatever editing or additions that I want to do, the changes that I want to do to that object, okay? So usually for satellite images, I always keep them locked because they are always going to be on my background, but I don't want them to keep selecting them. That's the idea. You can also do the same for like imported models. So if you select a part of your imported model and you lock it, so the whole model now will be locked. So I just selected one part, but this whole model of the surroundings is now locked. And if I double click, I'll be able to select them. But if I click once, I can't select that object anymore. I'm clicking once over here right now. Okay, so to unlock these objects, again, you can double click and then unlock the model. And now you're ready to start working with it again. Cool. So this is a great way for you to have a lot of elements on your site that you don't want to be clicking at all times. And the second thing that I want to show over here is the disconnect from timeline. So I've seen on like a couple weeks, for the past couple weeks, a lot of people are using drawings and they have their drawings showed up on their scenarios, and it's hovering on top of their site. So they have to keep temporarily hiding those drawings at all times and so on and so forth, instead of like just keeping them hidden by default. So the way to do that is by whenever you are working with a drawing, you can select this option over here that is disconnect from timeline. So disconnect from timeline means that that object is still on my scenario, is still on my list of objects over here, but it's basically hidden by default. So there are three different connections that you can do with cmBuilder with like an object. Is either you can disconnect it from timeline so that object will always be hidden and you can turn it on and off as you wish, or you can have that object showing from the beginning to the end, which is usually what I do for the satellite images, or you can have that object connected to the timeline by defining what is the first and the last milestone that that object's going to show. Okay. So right now, I just disconnected this drawing from my timeline, and oh, I just reconnected it from my timelines just to show this as an example. And I can will move this up over here. And when I hit done, now the drawing is visible at all times. Okay, so if I refresh the scenario, this drawing is going to still be here. But this is what I mentioned, that like a lot of people are working this way and they keep hiding the objects that they don't want. So basically, you just need to go into edit and disconnect it from the timeline, because now that object's going to be hidden by default. Okay, so whenever a drawing is hidden, like the one that I have right now, I can turn it on by going into drawing and then seeing over here the list of never show drawings, and then I can turn it on and off from here, or I can open my tree structure and I can turn that drawing on and off from here as well, right? Turn it on and off. Or my favorite is to go on tools, go into drawing overlay and turn that drawing on and off from here. Okay, so this is my favorite because it's right over here. I can see a list of all the disconnected drawings, and also I can do this while I'm working with other tools. Let's say that I'm drawing a 3D line right now and I need that drawing as a reference. I can go over here in tools and just turn that drawing on and then keep working. Okay, so this is how you manage your drawings in, not drawings, but any reference elements that you want to put in cmBuilder. So for example, sometimes you're doing a line that will represent a path of a truck or something like that. So for example, if I want to do this line over here to represent that path, and I hit confirm, you see that line is showing over there at all times, but I don't want to see that. I want just to see the truck. When I create the animation for it, I can simply go over here and disconnect my line from the timeline. So this is hidden now, and the way to see that line is just going on your little tree structure over here and finding that line that is going to be hidden by default. Okay. So this is how you manage your referencing elements, by locking them and disconnecting them from the timeline. You can always choose like a mix and match of these two options.